allotted for you guys to have open discussion. So if we need to reference it, we'll have it available.
Perfect. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're now live streaming on YouTube.
All right, it is 5 o'clock. We will call the February 8th, 2022 Fire District 5 Commissioners meeting to order. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Incy,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Commissioner Urbina,
Yes.
Chairman Wilsey.
Yes. Any commissioner absences coming up?
I may not make the next meeting. I'm going to do my best to be there remotely, even though I'll be out of town. So I'll let everybody know when we get closer to it if I'm not going to be able to make it.
And then just a reminder, I will not be at the next meeting.
Received. All right, so we got Joe is a no and Bryce is a maybe, and hopefully he can. So sounds good. All right, any communications to the board?
No communications this week.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the January 11th meeting?
So move. Second.
A roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Incy,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Commissioner Urbina,
Yes.
Chairman Wilsey.
Yes. How about some voucher approvals?
I'll move that we approve the vouchers as outlined in the agenda for a total of between vouchers and ACH transfers, $2,422,859.71.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to accept the vouchers and ACH payroll as outlined in the agenda. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Incy,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Commissioner Urbina,
Yes.
Chairman Wilsey.
Yes. All right, I got a text message that there wasn't any 3390 report tonight. Appreciate that. This takes us right to Chief's report. I believe Chief Meyer has it tonight.
All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. Tonight's chief report is going to focus on a couple things. One of the first things I wanted to talk about was that you should have seen a communication from Chief Doan concerning the status of Assistant Chief John Johnson. Chief John Johnson has been laterally moved over to focus on the capital facilities plan and the bond process coming up. With that, Division Chief Jason Black has been offered and he has accepted temporary promotion to Assistant Chief of Logistics. We are currently, this upcoming week, going to be working on the trickle-down effect concerning temporary promotions to backfill Chief Black's position. So please, when you talk to Jason, and you'll see him later tonight on this presentation, please congratulate him when he sees him and thank him for stepping up and doing that work. The next update, I want to go to Chief Bierstrom for a COVID update.
Well, good evening. Some good news is that just as the surge is letting go of the greater population, it is also letting go of us. We have some family members and some non-employees still dealing with COVID and the effects of COVID. But at this point in time, all of our employees are back to work. So that's some good news. We're still in a universal masking 60-day temporary order. However, that looks like it's going to end on time as long as we continue the current trends. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dan. The next report is going to be from Chief Oldenburg, and he's going to talk about the bond advisor slash council update. So Chief Oldenburg, please.
Thank you, Chief Meyer. And board members, I just wanted to, like Chief Meyer said, I wanted to give you a quick update on some of the actions that staff has been taking along with some select commissioners to this point. I'm sure you're all aware that we currently engaged Liz Loomis in a public outreach program, and that's been very effective. There's a number of other bond-related items that are important to us as well moving forward, and we want to make sure that we're prepared for those. So a couple of those issues that we've been actively engaged in is the use of or potential use of a municipal advisor to help us moving forward with the bond, as well as selection of an underwriter and selection of bond counsel. And bond counsel is pretty much the bond attorney that would help us with a number of things moving forward, to include the reimbursement resolution and some of the language that would be needed for the actual bond measure. So we've, to date, we've had presentations from underwriter, DA Davidson. We've had presentations from a municipal advisor, Northwest Municipal Advisor Group. Select staff have participated in that, Commissioner Ency and Commissioner Urbina. And I believe Commissioner Nelson was present for at least one of those. And so we've had those presentations. We have some additional presentations scheduled for bond counsel for KL Gates and Foster Garvey. They're used readily around here by other agencies. And so what we've decided to do most recently is to kind of establish a more formalized subcommittee with the select few of us representing staff, along with Commissioner Urbina and Commissioner Ency. And we are prepared to move forward with evaluating requests for proposals from agencies that would represent underwriting, municipal advisors, and bond counsel. And then what we would plan on doing moving forward was we would review those requests for proposals. We would make a recommendation and prepare a presentation for the full board for their potential approval moving forward. So that's kind of just an update to this point of what we've done, kind of where we would like to go with our small group, move into the more formalized selection of representation that would assist us moving forward, and then bring that recommendation back to the full board. So I'm not asking for any specific action tonight, other than unless the board would like to change that process that I just mentioned or make specific changes to it moving forward. Otherwise, we'll just continue on the path that I described, and I would probably defer to Commissioner Urbina and Ency if you guys would like to comment and maybe make some comments up to this point of your feelings as well. So looks like we have a hand raised. I'll stand for questions as well.
I just want to make one, one clarification. He stated that Commissioners Joe and myself and thought that Bryce was at one of those. If Bryce was at one of those, it was the one that I was gone from because of being sick. So I want to make clarification that there was at no time was there more than two commissioners at any of those committee meetings.
And Kevin, just to add to that, the only meeting that I attended was last Friday. East Pierce offered to have some, I think their current chief and an assistant chief, and they kind of offered to give a presentation to the command staff here at Gig Harbor on how things went when they ran their bond proposal, along the lines of, is there anything we're missing in terms of how to do this sort of thing correctly? That's the only one that I've attended, and Joe was the only other commissioner on that meeting.
Yeah, and we did meet with, I'll maybe get a little ahead of myself, but we did meet with DA Davidson a couple weeks ago, and it was a great presentation. I was really impressed with them. They've done a lot of business with other local fire departments and have been successful. So I just want to kind of update you guys on that.
All right, so no want to change the process or the format that we're following, I take it? Okay, from those comments, all right. Sounds good. Anything else there, Chief Oldenburg?
That's all I had on that issue. Thank you.
And so we're also going to go back to Chief Oldenburg about an Interra introduction. So Chief, take it away.
All right, looks like I'm back for round 2 right away. So let me get my screen shared here and make sure everybody can see what I'm showing here. Does everybody see what looks like an Interra landing page? How about this right here?
We can now. Yeah.
Okay. Let me make one quick change here. So I don't know how much or how familiar you are with Interra, but I'm just going to start kind of from the basics. Obviously, this was approved last year, and we've been working on the configuration of, primarily this is an analytics tool for the fire department here at Gig Harbor. It's for the most part divided into 2 primary sections of software. One will be a dashboard, which I'll walk you through and show you some of the features of it. And then the second part is more of a mapping geospatial representation of the activities that we have here in Gig Harbor, and I'll walk you through that as well. So when we open up and go to what I would call our landing page, and I'm going to preface this a little bit. So we are still working with the configuration in backend. It takes a lot of time to review all of the analytics and the data that we're importing to make sure it's accurate and correct. As we go through here, I'll be able to show you one example of a configuration issue that we're working on, but some of them take time. We have to go back to the software ESO provider who does our records management system, and other times we have to work through not only our records management system, but South Sound 911. So some of those things take a while to get resolved, but this will give you a good understanding of just the general software itself. So this is an example of, this is the landing page when you open the software. What this is representative of is obviously a year-to-date summary. There's a heading here. There's going to be some standard graphs. Some of it represents last year's calls. These are filtered to not show mutual aid calls. And I'm not going to go into every detail on every page, but that's why this number is a little bit low. We're in the mid 6,000s for total calls. But there are some filters that are put on some of these dashboards. So when they land, it's already filtered out. And obviously this year to date, we've had 684 calls. We do have the ability across the top of the dashboard to further filter calls by specific stations, units, shifts, type of call. We can drill down into actions taken, like did we actually put out the fire? Did we pull hose lines? Did we do search and rescue? So there's a lot of different filtering options here that we can further define and evaluate our call data to include the demand zones that were built into the standard of cover. So we can look at runs that are specific to those areas. This is just one page of what I would call the dashboard and how it graphically represents what we've done. There are additional pages as well. So we would expand this side. We can go down to I am in year to date currently. We could go down into quarterly performance. This is going to be able to analyze our performance quarter over quarter and specific response criteria, whether it's turnout time, travel time, response time. As I am assuming you're very familiar with these data points, this is the example that I was going to reference earlier when we talk about something that is not correct in our data. This is the alarm processing time at South Sound 911. And for the most part, they're saying that they process our calls in under 20 seconds. And that's, we all know that's just not accurate because it takes much longer than that for them to answer the phone, ask who's calling, ask the nature of emergency, those types of things. We're working on this diligently to get that corrected, but it's involving a number of players to do that. So again, this is just another layer of data that's available to us. One of the areas that we take a look at pretty closely is obviously our response times. This again is a different page, but it's going directly to the heart of our response performance. This is the dispatch time, which again, we talked about is around 20 seconds, is not necessarily accurate at this point, but this would give you a representation of our turnout time. This is how long it takes our employees to receive the alarm in their station, get dressed, get out to the engine, and start responding. So turnout times, travel times, and response times are the three major metrics that we look for as we move forward when we're analyzing our performance here as an organization. So I don't want to belabor this, but we have a number of pages here that are all filled with dashboard data that's pre-populated based on any of the criteria we select from the top tabs. We can slice it and dice it pretty much however we would like, and we can look at it and we can export it if we want and use it in other forms and functions. The second piece of the software is the geospatial portion, which obviously this is Gig Harbor, this is Fox Island, and here's Tacoma. I'll start with layers. So this is just kind of GIS based stuff. And then we add layers of data that we can overlay the map with to help us slice and analyze data. Data sets that are very large don't show up until you zoom in because they take a lot of horsepower to depict on the map. We can, again, slice things by response areas. This is indicative of the engine company response areas that we have now that are multiple jurisdictions. And what I mean by that is we don't staff all of our stations. So these are larger than what I would call one stationary's response area, but they're inclusive of that entire geographic area there. Now, obviously, the medic units is different. We have 3 transport units, so our jurisdiction is divided into thirds to represent their response areas. Again, I mentioned earlier, we also slice things by standard of cover demand zones. This is the municipal, the urban, and the rural areas. We can use those for looking at geographic data, and then we've imported a number of layers from Pierce County as well. It gets pretty specific. This is exact parcel data, and you can drill down into these things, and you can get specific data that's relevant to the actual tax parcel, which is listed over here on the left, which comes from the assessor's office. So we have reports and things like that that require us to estimate the amount of property damage, actual house address, street confirmed address, and things like that. So all of that data is here as well and populated in the software. And then again, what I'll do is I'll zoom out here, and similar to what I showed on the first part, which is the dashboard, which is a little bit easier to read. Again, you would have filters on, these are all drop-down filters, so you can make selections from that. You can run a query. What I'm doing here is just selecting a time frame. This would be indicative of all the incidents and responses that Gig Harbor has gone to since January 1st to the 8th of February. Then we can start drilling down on data. We have the ability to look at, these will be coordinated with our standard of cover response times. We can show density maps. There's a whole bunch of ways that we can depict and analyze data. So I don't want to overload you at this point in time, but I wanted to give you an update of some of the things that that we're working on. We're getting close. And so I'm excited about our ability to use this data moving forward to make data-driven decisions. And I would stand for questions that you have any, or Chief Meyer, if you'd like to jump in here and kind of piggyback, or if that's good enough, I'll stand for questions. Commissioner NC.
You're muted, Kevin.
I'm sorry, at the very first, when you started this presentation, one of the things that you mentioned was what dispatch was saying, how soon they dispatch us to a call, correct? It was,
That's-
what was like 6 minutes or 7 minutes?
Actually, their dispatch processing times are depicted as around 20 seconds,
Okay,
which
20
is
okay, 20.
probably not attainable.
Okay. I guess to me, right from the start, we all know, anybody that's been in the business to where we have a dispatched call. And then you stated that too, that's not, you got the dispatch, the call receiver, then the dispatch, then all the questions about where, what, when, how, whatever. And then finally the tone out to the right. I guess to me, that would almost seem like at that from right there, we're not getting or not providing correct information to people who may look at this. And that's the whole start of the scenario, is the call coming in to the response time from whatever unit that we're going to be sending. How can we correct that working with another jurisdiction or another entity, because we're going to be at under their I can't think of the word I'm thinking for, but we're basically going to be at their call, and we can't really control that.
Commissioner NC, yeah, I guess my response to that is that, we have reached out to the agencies. We're making almost continuous changes to the data. It's called the lookup tables that reside behind this data. And so Captain O'Neill and myself spend a lot of time in here, and it's not going to go public, or we will not use that data when we know it's accurate. So we can slice the data a different way and say, let's focus right now on the things we can control. So the time they ring the bells in the station till the time we get to the location, that stuff is accurate and controllable from our standpoint. And so ultimately, yes, we want all of the data to be accurate and correct, and it will get there. And I'll tell you that we haven't run into any challenges with people not being willing to change. It's just the time it takes us to identify that, figure out exactly what data needs to be changed, what things need to be changed, and then going back through the process of identifying who does that. If it's South Sound 911, if it's ESO, if it's a combination of both, which it usually is, because we pull data from our records management system, and the records management system pulls data from CAD, the computer-aided dispatch. So sometimes we have to work with both of the vendors in order to get our data that's downstream and at the very end to be accurate. But I share your concern. I want it to be accurate, and we want it to be correct. And so we're working diligently to get those changes. And so I anticipate that those changes will be made.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited about this program. This is something that our organization has needed for a long time, and having this platform to work off of is just great. This tonight is just really an introduction into Interra. So as Perry was talking about, we're continuing to conform and build what works for Gig Harbor Fire. So I'm just excited about this and what it will allow us to provide. It has an analytics page. And then the other thing it will have is another suite or another module is it will have an operations tab, which is more real life where we can help manage resources in a timely fashion when that occurs. But I'm just excited about this. This is a great tool for us. And like Perry was saying, this is just awesome to provide us data. And the nice thing about it is, if you've been around here for a long time, we used to have to mine the data or learn how to get the data out of things. And that took a lot of staff time and a lot of consumption of, lack of better words, energy. And sometimes it wasn't maybe as accurate and we were learning as we were going. But if you look at Interra and look at their website, a lot of other agencies, a lot larger than us, are using this program. So we're hoping to leverage that. One of the last things I wanted to talk about before we move on is I just wanted to give a little bit of a report about some run card changes that we have made. If you remember, when we brought on the third firefighter on an engine, I have been talking about adapting some of our response packages and some of our dispatches. So I just want to give you a little small snapshot of something that we've done here in the last month since the start of the year. And when we brought on the engine company, 3 people on an engine company, we talked about reducing some of our responses that our medic units have historically been on. And one of the things that I just want to talk about is a small piece of automatic fire alarms. So we used to, up until about 2 weeks ago, we used to send, as part of our response packages, we used to send our medic units to automatic fire alarms. And so with the addition of 3-person engine companies, made the decision to remove our medic units off of those packages. And so if you look at our data from the last 2 years, the automatic fire alarm family, we responded to over 700 calls in the last 2 years. In 2020 and 2021, we responded to 787 calls over that 2-year period to automatic fire alarms that our medic units went on. Moving forward in 2022, we have removed those medic units from those dispatches. So moving forward in 2022, our medic units are going to go on over 700 less calls. And that does a couple things. That makes our medic units more reliable. That also reduces the wear and tear on our crews, the wear and tear on our apparatus, and also it saves money in simple things just as diesel. Okay, so that's just wanted to give you an example of something that we have. Sorry, my light goes off because I don't move enough. Sorry about that. But that's just one example, and that's the start of us evaluating our response packages moving forward. I've talked about getting with the BCs and evaluating more of our call types and looking at like the frequency of them, our response packages, the number of transports. So in 2022, we are going to be moving forward reviewing that stuff. So I just wanted to give you an update of a real tangible change that we have made, that I think is in the positive when it comes out of 3-person engine companies that we added at the start of the year. Any questions from the chief's report?
Not a question, but I just wanted to say that Interra software suite looks fantastic. And I know at some point somebody said that they're going to give access to the commissioners to look at that too. That would be really great for us to kind of be able to see that data. And at some point in a past meeting, I talked about how on my bookshelf, I have the book Moneyball by Michael Lewis, which is about the Oakland A's and how they kind of revolutionized baseball by being data driven. And I feel like this is kind of our little Moneyball that we're doing here. And I'm excited about it.
All right, unless there's any questions, that's the end of the chief's report tonight. Thank you.
All right. Anybody have any more questions for Chief Meyer? Anything? This is his report. All right. Standing committee reports. I know we kind of briefly already touched on one. Do you guys have anything else you want to add, or you good? All right. Everybody's good. Chairman's report. I don't have anything tonight. Old business, capital facilities planning update. Chief Meyer.
All right, so what we put this on the agenda for is this is a time allotted for the commissioners to have open discussion concerning the capital facilities planning and the bond process. So I would like to turn it over to you commissioners to have an open discussion at this time.
All right, so kind of what we talked about this in agenda setting is this is our time as commissioners to discuss a little bit more, obviously with the updated numbers from Rice Fergus Miller, taking us from 80 million down to 65 million. Right, I believe, yeah, that's what the numbers are. What do we do, right? Do we, add more projects to it and stick with the $80 million number or in that neighborhood? Or do we cut it down to 65 and just do 51, the training center, and then is it 52 and 56, I believe, off the top of my head? I don't have the whole plan in front of me right now.
58, 59.
58, 59, right? And then, so there's the one option that we kind of had discussed before is, that's why I had 52 and 56 on my head, is doing a minor refresh to 52 and 56, right? Not a full-blown, full-on addition, but, just kind of update those and spend minimal amount of money on those. But that's what this time is for. Any discussion or thoughts?
So I'll start real quick if that's okay. I personally, after going through all the meetings and being on the committees, would recommend to the board that we do the full 80 for a couple different reasons. If we do all the projects that we have planned for the 65 million, if there's any overruns, we'll have that capital available to finish those projects. And hopefully, if we can stick to the budget that we're at, we can also add those other couple stations and finish it out. And that's just my preference. I can go into more detail if you want, but I'd love to hear what you guys think about that.
I'd like to chime in a little bit.
Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think we're at a position now that we have 4 projects for $65 million. Now, the board, I'd like to hear, do we go beyond the 65? Personally, I'm in favor of that. I don't think it'll, at least in my way of thinking, and Chairman Wilsey already touched upon this, if we did to 52 and 56, and some of you weren't on the board then, but you've seen 53 and 57, we updated those for, I'm gonna say, $1.5 million each. Now, granted, that's probably 10 years ago. So let's go forward and do the same thing to 52 and 56, just that what we did to 53, and I'm throwing all kinds of numbers out here, but you guys understand. Along with that, just to bring them up to 53 and 57, that's standard, so to speak. Then with all 4 of them for another, let's say another 3 million total, we could at least make the facilities where we have our decontamination, etc. I would hope for about, and I'm hoping, say for $10 million, I'm just grabbing that out of a hat, maybe 3 million each for 52 and 56, another 3 million for decontamination, etc. That's already kind of on the board. For $9 or $10 million, and I don't know if those figures are good that I'm throwing out. I'm hoping. So let's take it to 75 million, that would put this district in really good shape for a good many years. 54 and 55, frankly, have never really been used particularly other than for garages, so to speak. That's my thought. I don't know that we'd have to go to 80, but I'd love to see 52 and 56 as far as seismic, as far as the insides, just make them a better facility. The same thing we did to 53 and 57. But I agree with the chairman. We need to look at those two, 56 and 52. Thank you.
Hey, Bryce.
I agree with Tom and Joe. I mean, I think to some extent, and I just, I kind of look at it this way. In a professional context, in terms of if I'm asked like how long is something going to take, I estimate long, and then if I come in under, I'm happy. I don't estimate under, and then it takes more time than what I think, I was going to estimate. So I'd rather have us estimate a number and come in under it than estimate a number and come in over it. Because I think that we're not, we can say we anticipate we're going to sell X amount of bonds, but if the numbers come in below that, we don't necessarily have to sell all of the bonds that we estimate. And so I agree with Tom and Joe. I think that we landed on 80 as the number. I think that we have 5 currently staffed stations. I think that the work that Rice Fergus Miller did allows us a lot of flexibility in terms of picking and choosing. And I think this is what Tom was getting at. Like, we almost have a menu of 3 different things that we can do for the identical 6 stations. And we can pick and choose what we can afford based on the cost estimates that we get going forward. Understanding that in an ideal scenario, they would all be done exactly the same way. But if it winds up that we could only do a renovation of the interior and add on the decontamination and not add on a 3rd bay at 56 or 52, we've at least gotten done a chunk of that adds to the quality of life at those stations and adds capacity so we can have, 2 crews comfortably living in those facilities. Because I think right now we've got 2 crews in those facilities and it's not super comfortable, the living situation. So I think that I'm comfortable with sticking with the original 80 and getting as many projects done as we can, because I view this as a once in every 30 to 35 year thing that we're going to do, not a, continual 10 years from now, we're going to ask again, 10 years from now, we're going to ask again. I think this is like taking out a home mortgage and, you do a 30-year fixed and that's it. And we did this in 1985 or 86. And that's 36, 37 years ago. So we're due for a similar effort now. And then 30 years down the line, we'll do it again and we'll see where we're at. But I think that the work that Rice Fergus Miller has done sets up the district extremely well for the next 30 years if we accomplish what we've talked about. And I agree with Tom. I think 55 and 54 have not been used as much because they haven't been staffed. So, those can be lightly renovated. And if we eventually staff them, we'll figure out what to do then.
Kevin, any thoughts, comments?
I agree. I agree with what's been said. My thought has always been that we need to go, what's the saying? Go big or go home. We got this opportunity now. We need to do what we need to do for our community and for our firefighters, and getting these stations brought into 21st century here with who we have working now and the community growing like it is, and the response that we need to make, and the idea that we're no longer 100 volunteers and 5 full-time firefighters, that it's now the other way around, and male female thing that we never had back there when in 86 and 85 when we're building these. So yeah, we need to shoot for the big goal and do it right and you know, get the projects taken care of for our people.
All right, and I'll just share, you know, Chief Doan and I spoke last week, and you know, the greatest fear is that you know, you don't ask for enough and then you don't accomplish what you told everybody you were going to do, right? That's almost worse to myself and, you know, than trying for the $80 million and then not getting approved for the bond, right? I'd rather go for the 80 and take the risk of, you know, folks turning that down versus asking for less and not being able to accomplish what we even said we were going to do. So I think that was the sentiment that Chief Doan had expressed, and I tend to agree with that. And I believe, you know, with all the rest of the comments that the commissioners made tonight, there's always going to be those options at the end. Now, if we are very good with the dollar, and let's say that inflation slows down and price of materials comes down, we have lots of options, right? And I am hopeful that if we have enough money, that we'll be able to address all of the stations in some form or fashion, right? Not everyone's going to get a full remodel, but at least we'll touch every station and put this department and the community in a good place for, like Bryce said, for another 30 years, right? So that is the goal of this, and I think it's all of our hope. So does anybody else have anything more they'd like to share or comment on?
I think it sounds like we're all on the same page here. And I like how you guys have basically expressed what I was trying to say at the beginning. If we get the full 80 and things come under budget, we add. If things go over budget, we're still going to accomplish what we need to accomplish with that money. And I don't want to be, like you said, Alex, we got to finish what we need to finish. And so if we shortchange and go down to 65 to the bare bones of what is being projected, and something happens that's out of our control, I would be disappointed.
And Alex, one more one more thing to add. I don't know the names, but whoever the commissioners were back in the 80s that made a decision to go to the community and seek a bond to buy the properties to build the stations we have now, I mean, they set up this organization for success in the future by taking a risk back then. And yeah, like Alex, like you said, there's a certain degree of risk in doing something like this. But my hope is that whoever's on this board 30 years from now and the members of this community 30 years from now would be able to look back and say the same things about the decisions we make. That, you know, we set the organization up for another 30 years of success and good quality service to the community by doing this.
No, and the call volumes and, you know, the data that, you know, we're going to build on with Interra and showing that number, but just, you know, the numbers that we can keep track of. I mean, we have South 911 that does a little bit of data storage for us and gives us reports on what we're doing, and everything's going up. And, you know, if you were driving to Costco, like my wife and I were on Sunday, and you take a look around, and all of that space that used to be trees and land is now, you know, homes and commercial property. Yeah, it's yeah, we need definitely what we're doing is the right direction. I don't think it's going to slow down, and I hope that we're setting, like Bryce said, our department and our community up for success well into the future. So, all right,
Commissioner Wilsey.
Yes, sir.
Just had one thing to add. Just wanted to publicly thank Central Kitsap and East Pierce Fire and Rescue. Our staff had the opportunity to meet with them last week, and they were very forthcoming with the lessons learned concerning their processes. They shared with the shortfalls that they had and also the wins that they had. And it was very educational for our staff. So I just wanted to publicly thank Central Kitsap and East Pierce Fire and Rescue for those meetings. And they also have offered to meet with us in the future and help guide us through this process. So I just want to thank those organizations for that effort.
Thank you, Chief. And yeah, we always appreciate our surrounding districts sharing their successes and sometimes their failures so that we can all be more successful in the future. So thank you, guys. All right, any other comments? All right, seeing none, let's move on to hybrid meeting update. Chief Black.
Good evening. Back to you with just a little bit of information regarding the hybrid meeting. Sorry, my lighting's not very good. I'm in a hotel room. I'm at a conference right now. So, but just put a small PowerPoint together for you, commissioners, to just kind of go over that, provide a little bit more information, and help us determine how we want to continue to move forward with that. So bear with me. Alyssa is helping me back there at 5:00, and we'll pull up the PowerPoint. I'll walk us through it real quick, and then I'll be excited for questions after that. So the first page, just real simple audiovisual upgrades that we're looking to do and what we've done. Second page is just a bit of history. Again, we reached out to 4 companies about 4 months ago. 2 of them indicated they weren't interested. 2 of them did come out and take a look. Both of us gave us bids that were similar in cost, and we very quickly found that one was a more professional-based company for a similar price, and that is the one that we have been working on, continuing to get ourselves educated about this and be ready to come to the board and provide us with some information to help keep moving forward. On the next page, we've got just a little bit of show and tell. The thing that I like about this is it's high-tech equipment, but it functions in a way for a low-tech Jason. And so those things help us be able to make it work very well. I'll just read it. It's not always, the screenshot's not always easy to see, but this control and automation allows us to simplify complicated systems and break them down to a single button operation, improving usability, team engagement, and the efficiency, as well as limit valuable man hours setting up for meetings. Control processors to handle all commands sent to the touchscreen, occupancy sensors, participation sensors to an automated room usage, and shut down the system when we're not there. I reached out to both our training division and EMS division, and both of them are very supportive of this. They definitely see a great benefit to a big AV upgrade like this, which will allow for more interaction from the crews, from their homes as people are off duty, and also from their stations, so that we can get a high level of training, have interaction, and allow our crews to stay in their response areas. This upgrade will allow the commissioners to better interact with our public, as well as meeting our legislative requirements. The upgrade will be a very intuitive system that can be operated by just one person during any training or meeting. And so the picture here just kind of shows us the iPad, push button, things that we are becoming more and more used to. And just then again, a little bit of the controllers, a little bit of the speakers and microphones that would be used as a way to bring great clarity into that system. We'll move on to the next one. This one, just a little bit of the cameras, just again, showing you what they do. The big thing here is the quality, the quality you pay for is the quality you get. And so we have looked at putting in really good, high quality cameras that give us a very clean visual view. It has the angles, both a wide angle and zoom angle, that we would need to cover our rooms. And not only for meeting what we anticipate now, but we're definitely looking down the road so that we have equipment that can last us for quite a long time. And then a little bit of the microphone system, and then again, a little bit just more of the equipment. One of the things that we have learned is that we want to have equipment that really gives you a reliable speech. It really picks up the sound of the person that's speaking, that it optimizes that. And the other big thing is having equipment that takes away interference. There's always interference. There's always things that are happening. And so all of this really makes that function very well. And then this is what the microphones would look like on the office or the desk space where the commissioners and the chiefs would sit. So just a little bit of understanding of how you'd be able to speak into those, and that would give us a great clear voice transmission, picking that up and then being able to send that out in a very strong and clear and powerful way. So wrapping all that up was our total cost for this project is approximately $190,000, which gives rooms for a little bit of incidentals. The Desco bid is coming in at $170,000. The computers that we need to buy to run these systems is $10,000. And then we have put in there, we do need to upgrade our internet coming into 5.0, and a little bit for incidentals would be another $10,000. We had really hoped to go visit a company that had have this type of system installed, that Desco did this work. And we were all set to do that before COVID kind of ramped back up, and appropriately everybody needed to slow down on that. So possibly in the future we can get down and actually have a little bit more of a hands-on demonstration. But I do feel very confident with the system and where we're at and what we're looking to accomplish. So we can close out of that, Alyssa. Thank you. So just wanting to follow back again with what the commissioner and the board had asked for, with a little bit more detail, a few pictures, and then kind of formulating our funding. And if there's questions of me, I would stand ready for that. And then Chief Meyer will be following up with a little bit further information.
Go ahead, Tom. You're muted, Tom.
A few years back, I toured at that time Central Pierce's new headquarters. And I walked into a room with a bunch of monitors where individuals could be in front of that monitor, and there must have been a half a dozen of them, as I recall, and do their training. Now, I'm not sure exactly what their training amounted to, but there were individual stations. Would this system lend itself to something like that?
A little bit. I think what you might have been looking at is back then they did a lot, right? We did training in front of an individual type screens. We do have screens at all of our stations where people would be able to watch and interact that way. So it is taking that and taking it one step further, where not only are they looking at it as individual screens, but they have the ability to interact far more, to interact better from the standpoint that they can communicate back. The screens then, a lot of that was kind of based around Blue Card, where you would watch a video and then you'd click a few buttons and give a response back. This is taking that and allowing them to have that voice process involved in that. So to answer your question, yes, it does take that and enhance that type of system.
Jason, I think this would be fantastic, if only, I mean, obviously it benefits the commissioners' meetings, but I view it as much more beneficial to the line staff of the department, that it provides for training opportunities for people that are at work at stations, and keeps them potentially in their buildings while taking part in training, as opposed to having to physically come to 5.0. So, this ties right in with that data that Chief Oldenburg presented earlier about response times and that type of thing. I think this is an opportunity to help with that, to get people training opportunities and maintain response times. So to me, yeah, it's a not insignificant amount of money, but I think it's well worth the cost.
I would agree. And I think it just really enhances the building that we have and the training program that we're moving forward to, and what we're looking to just accomplish as a department and a district. And we're enhancing our buildings, and this, we're going for a bond. We're trying to make ourselves better. And I think this is just a big component to, or one component to continuing in that movement.
So Chief Black, are we pursuing any other bids from other companies?
At this time, we are not. Chief Meyer will talk to that a little bit, but what my ask would be to this group and talking with Chief Meyer and Chief Doan is that we look for authorization to move forward on putting this out to bid. Following that process, based on the amount of money that it is, we want to follow the process, and it will take us a little bit longer, but that's an appropriate thing to do. And so I'd like to move forward on putting a bid package together, sending it out for bid, and then allowing us to see what comes back and what we can do.
Go ahead, Tom.
The last time this product was brought before us, as I recall, not bid, but the price we were given was a little bit over 100,000. Am I correct?
Not the last one that I brought you. It was about 160. And as we have continued to get educated on it and the things that we're recognizing that we need in order to make it be successful, recognizing that we need to upgrade the internet that comes into 5.0 and a few things like that, it has increased. There's no doubt about it. But I did originally, at the last time we were together, it was about 160.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So Commissioner, Chairman Wilsey, so from the staff, based on AC Black's proposal, we will be moving forward, looking at different funding mechanisms, whether it's a grant and it could be COVID replacement, whether it is using end of the year funds, or potentially pulling out of reserves with keeping above our minimums concerning our reserves. So that's where that financial piece would come from. Based on the dollar amount that Chief Black talked about, the staff believes that this should go out to the formal bid process moving forward because of the dollar amount. So that's our recommendation. We would like to proceed forward with that process, moving forward with this project.
Todd, do you need a formal motion and a vote from us on that, or just kind of general approval?
So what I would like that. I think that would be good business. And then we would be coming back after the staff does our work and we get with our council and we get the formal bidding process. We'll be coming back to you to award the bid. Yes.
So I would make a motion that we authorize this system as described by Chief Black in his presentation to go out to bid.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
Just clarification. So it'll go out to bid, you'll come back, you'll tell us how you plan on funding it, and then we'll approve all that together. Do I understand kind of the process going forward?
Yeah, so in the meantime, as probably happening at the same time as we're building the bid process, we'll probably be looking at different options concerning how we're going to fund it. I can't tell you the exact timelines right now, but that was when we talked about this as staff, we looked at those are probably the three avenues that we'd be pursuing considering this. Number one, looking for grants and possible COVID reimbursement. Number two, looking at year-end funds that haven't been used. And then third, pulling out of reserves, staying above our minimal reserve threshold.
Yeah, no, that's great. I just want to make sure I understood kind of the next steps. Thanks.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Incy,
Yes.
Commissioner Nelson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sudich,
Yes.
Commissioner Urbina,
Yes.
Chairman Wilsey.
Yes. All right, so go forth and get bids and figure out funding.
Thank you.
All right. Doesn't look like we have anything under new business. Anybody else have any new business to bring forward tonight? All right, so that takes us to open public comment. Please state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes if there's anybody who wishes to address the board this evening. Take a look and see if we got any hands up. Looks like Carl, if we can get Carl in here. Are we able to get Carl into the room?
I'm trying to promote him to panelist. It doesn't appear to be working.
There he is.
How about now?
We got you, Carl. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Carl Kreitzer, 11 Gig Harbor. Are we also planning lid lifts this year?
Yes, we are planning the EMS levy lid lift.
But not fire, just EMS?
Just EMS.
Okay. My hunch, my 2 cents worth is I doubt whether it's going to be a tougher sell, whether you're talking about 60 or whether you're talking about 80. But I think we've got a really different environment that we're going to be facing this year in selling this with a lid lift, with what everybody's experiencing now at the gas station, the grocery store, other taxes are going up. We are going to see a lid lift. I just suggest that it's going to be a tougher sell. And I think in times past, we've almost assumed approval from the public, and we've achieved that over the years. When I was had the one lid lift, we went and met with the newspaper, and that was about the only article. The only question I ever had from anybody in the public was how many firefighters we had. That was the only question I ever got.
Yeah.
I have a hunch there'll be more questions this year, and I just bring that up. I think that needs to be really plowed into the planning on selling this thing. I think it's going to be a little tougher. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. I always appreciate your input. And yeah, we believe somewhat of the same, and we've talked with the consultant about that specifically. So yeah, we're definitely taking everything under consideration. So. All right. Anybody else have any comments or questions for the board tonight? All right, I don't see any other hands up in the box other than Carl's is still up there.
Hi.
There we go. All right. So any good of the order for this evening? Anybody have anything going for good of the order?
Chairman Wilsey, I have a question for the board. I just want to make sure that everybody saw the invitation from the Washington Fire Commissioners Association about the upcoming SNR seminar Saturday series. I've heard from Commissioner Incy that he would like to attend the April, I think it's 29 conference, might be the 30th. I'm trying to get a calendar up in front of me. And it's actually Saturday, April 30th at Suquamish. And I'm wondering if anybody else is interested in attending that would like me to register and make any hotel arrangements for that.
Anybody else?
Put me down for a tentative yes. Or a question mark.
I'll need to discuss this with my boss at home and I'll get back to you.
Okay, very good. And then also coming up soon, I'm going to need to know how many people are going to want to attend the Chelan Saturday seminar. That will be on Saturday, June 4th. I'm holding several hotel rooms over there, and if they aren't going to be used, we'll look at letting those go.
I'll plan on going to that one, Tanya.
We need to talk to those guys about scheduling it over Maritime Fest. That's just, this doesn't work for me.
It is a problem.
Tony, I think you already got me down for that, right, Shalane?
I will double check. I'll put you down right now.
See, they changed it one time. It used to be the Chiefs Conference and the Commissioners Conference ran at the same time. There was an overlap there.
Man, I could kill two birds, one stone, but it's not
Yeah.
going to work out that way.
I mean, I'd like to go to the one on the 4th. And then let me just follow up with Adrian and I'll let you know about the 30th.
Okay, that sounds good, Joe. Thank you. So Alex, Chairman, sorry. Are you, you're a definite no then for Chelan?
Yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah, they're missing Maritime Fest.
Put me down as a definite maybe.
I don't have to worry about the Maritime Fest any longer. My wife's no longer with the Chamber of Commerce. That's why I'm free.
That's all I had under good of the order. Thank you.
Thanks for keeping us in line, Tanya, as always. All right. Any other good of the order from the rest of the group? All right. Any special interests, upcoming events? Other than what Tanya just all told us about. Got us signed up for. Okay. All right. Hearing and seeing none. This meeting is adjourned. Our next regular meeting will be Tuesday, February 22nd at 5 p.m. back here on Zoom. Thank you, everybody.
Have a good evening, you guys.
Good night,
Thanks for all
everybody.
thanks for all your presentation, guys.